Everybody, please silence to begin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I would like to call to order the July 15, 2015 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Robinson will not be here today. Mr. Irvine?
Here.
Mr. Youngblood?
Here.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Ms. Alvaro Rosales? Chairman Silva?
Here.
We have a quorum of the committee with 6 members present.
Our first order of business today is the approval of the committee minutes of June 10, 2015. The minutes were previously distributed. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Alvaro Rosales?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes.
Our next order of business is the review of the finance report. Ron and Tom. Morning.
Good morning. Ron, CFO of the CTA. We will go over the May month and year-to-date results. Farebox and pass revenue for the month was slightly below budget. Our reduced fare is 2.4 million unfavorable, and that we've made that adjustment for the 2015 state budget impact. Our non-fare box is $1 million favorable to budget, and that's primarily due to a non-capital grant. So you'll see the revenue come in through the opposite, and you'll see the expense will show up in expenses. So our total revenue variance for the month is 1.8 million unfavorable. Our average fare is $1.15, slightly above budget, and our free rides continue to be less than last year, and that's due to the great work by our security department, internal audit, our performance management departments that make sure that they're trying to make sure that only the people that should get free rides take free rides. Fare box year to date is slightly below budget, 2.8 million, and that's primarily due to, remember we had that extremely bad February during the year. A reduced fare, which we talked about, is now 7.1 million favorable. That's the impact of the 2015 state budget. Non-fare box is 3 million favorable, and that's primarily due to the non-capital grants. And revenue year to date is 6.9 unfavorable. And you can see that free rides is 1.8 million less than the same year to date period last year. On the expense side, labor is running slightly favorable, and that's due to we are managing our labor costs, and we were very conservative. Fringe. Materials are slightly unfavorable, and I think that's due to we were a little conservative in our, not actually conservative, in our budgeting. I almost would call it liberal. We were being a little aggressive in our budgeting, hoping for more savings than we got. Fuel and power are coming in favorable, and that's primarily due to the weather. It really wasn't that hot. Run air conditioning on either the bus, as much on the buses or the rail. Security is relatively flat, and other expenses, you can see the impact, the flip side impact of the non-capital grants. Year to date, labor still tracking favorable, roughly 2%. Materials, it's primarily, remember we had that very bad February, so that's where the year to date materials were unfavorable. Again, fuel and power are tracking favorable. Other expenses are the security grants. So total operating expenses are about 5.7 million favorable. You compare that to 9 million unfavorable for revenue, and so we're slightly unfavorable year to date.
So Ryan, I've got a question. We know that snow and the heat has an impact in terms of materials. What about all the rain? Does that have an impact in terms of usage for the system?
So, well, if it's severe, we might see the impact in terms of overtime, in terms of a response to like a flood event. You might see emergency repairs on the track more so than on the vehicles, but that might show up in materials, but also probably well. But you'd also, and if you remember last year, Chairman, sold for one weekend day because of severe rain, you actually see more of an impact on the revenue side in terms of the ridership.
Okay.
So I wouldn't look for it as much as an expense revenue.
I noticed that the investment income, keeps coming up. What are we doing, to
Well,
increase that?
we have to give credit to our treasurer, Bello. Our Treasury Department is doing an excellent job. They are really looking at durations, and within our investment policy, just being a little more aggressive, and so we're getting better returns than we budgeted.
So we should count, that's gonna
Yes, we're putting the pressure on Frank to continue to be budget every month.
Thanks. Any questions, please?
I noticed that in spite of the crackdown on inappropriate use of passes, our ridership is trending in the right direction. Our average fare per ride is going up. That's probably because of the crackdown. Am I correct on that?
Yes, apparently, yes.
Can you give us some color, okay, about the system generated revenue, okay, from the government, okay, in the anticipated fare?
Are you referring to the reduced fare
Reduced
subsidy?
fare subsidy, yeah.
Well, our fare and pass revenue overall is tracking okay. As far as the reduced fare, that's still in flux, with the states. We're not totally sure exactly what we're going to get in the second half of the year. So that could be, I think right now there was a proposal on the table to give us half, or it could end up, we're not sure. And of course, we always need all of the public funding that we can get. The finance team will work hard to balance our budget based on hopefully whatever that there will be a positive scenario that will impact us.
Any other questions? But the reduced fare is also affecting the recovery ratio, right?
Yes. But at the moment, we're still okay, though.
Yeah, I know we're okay, yes. Any other questions? If there are no further questions, thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing the execution of one or more supplemental indentures and issuance of capital grant receipts, revenue refunding bonds, Series 20 under Section 5307, urbanized area formula funds, and Section 5337, state of good repair formula funds, and a substitution of debt reserve policies for the funds in the debt reserve accounts of the 2010 sales tax bonds and the 2016 building commission bonds. Ron.
Nerd, CFO, CTA. Staff is recommending CTA issue 2015 refunding bonds, which will replace certain capital grant receipt bonds. The bond debt service is paid by the federal government. We will replace roughly $176 million of bonds with an interest rate on average of about 5.4% with bonds that will be under 3%. This will generate a net savings of $9 million, which will be used for capital projects. We have a very strong team led by RBC and Citibank as co-senior underwriters. We have our financial advisors, PFAC Advisory. Our bond counsel is Mayor Brown and Charity and Associates, and our underwriter counsel is Thompson and Coburn. Our minority participation is projected to be between 26 to 28%. Could I have my financing team to stand up? Thank you. Thank you. In addition, we're seeking permission to replace idle cash that's sitting in debt reserve funds for our 2010 sales tax bonds and our 2006 PBC bonds. We want to replace them with insurance policies or other type of surety instruments. We estimate payments will cost 4 to 6%, and the substitution will net us $23 million for the 2010 and $6.5 million for the PBC bonds, which we will use for, again, capital projects.
That's great.
Yes, yes, we're very excited about the deal.
So you put dollars out of thin air.
Well, that's what your finance department is supposed to continue to push for, more and more funding sources.
That's great.
Any questions?
No, just great. Thank you for your work and the whole team as well.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item in the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ron. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing a co-promotional advertising trade agreement with Bank of America for the 2015 Bank of Chicago Marathon. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, members of the committee, for the opportunity to present a co-promotion agreement with Bank of America for the Chicago Marathon, which this year will be held on October 11th, 2015. This will be the 15th year that the CTA has partnered with the organizers of the Chicago Marathon to promote the event on the system. Under this co-promotion, CTA is $17,346 in unsold advertising on buses and trains, and in exchange will receive $21,900 in promotional value from the marathon. This value to CTA will include sponsorship recognition in the 150,000 spectator guides that are distributed, as well as a booth at the marathon's health and fitness. This promotion will to reach out to an estimated 1.7 million people over the marathon weekend to encourage both current CTA customers to use CTA for non-work trips, but also tourists and new riders to use CTA to follow runners along the race and access other marathon events. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has. Thank you.
Any questions? For how many years do we have the commitment with Bank of America?
It's just an annual agreement that's renewed every year.
Yeah.
We do it for the marathon and a co-pro for the Shamrock Shuffle also in the spring. But those are separate agreements, but just for the one event, or annual.
Any other questions?
No, just both of them are decided then on an annual basis. You take a look at whether.
We have a co-promotion program that's pretty successful just because of the ridership that we get coming through, so people are anxious to take advantage of it. So every year they approach us, and we have the process going, and it's really a great opportunity to drive ridership and encourage people to try CTA.
Any other questions? No questions. If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item for approval?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing a funding and license agreement with T-Mobile, Verizon, and Sprint for subway cellular upgrade. Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Tom McCone, Vice President of Budget and Capital Finance. Ordinance to enter an agreement with major cellular communications to fully fund the upgrade to 4G cellular service in the CTA subway. As background on the project, over 300,000 rides pass through some portion of the CTA subway every day. Along with the upgrade to 4G, underground extends beyond the platforms to include the stations and the tunnels. CTA will become the largest public transit system in the U.S. with 4G coverage in all subway stations and tunnels. Regarding the funding in this agreement, the CTA worked with the Chicago Infrastructure Trust to negotiate a funding and operating agreement with all 4 cellular carriers. T-Mobile is the lead carrier and represented the carriers in negotiations, but we'd like to thank also Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T. The agreement remains in place if a carrier leaves, and it allows new carriers to join. Carriers pay the full cost, equipment and installation of the including extending the coverage area. The total cost is estimated to be $32.5 million. The carriers are then responsible for all ongoing maintenance and upgrades of the system. In addition, the carriers have agreed to pay the CTA $500,000 a year as a license fee, escalating at 3%. The agreement is for 20 years with a 5-year option. So this agreement brings additional investment to the CTA system at no cost to the agency, welcomed amenity for customers, and creates an ongoing revenue stream for the term of the contract.
Thank you.
Question. Carrier decides to pull itself out, the other 3 carriers will assume the cost.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
That's correct. The agreement stays in place.
Steve?
So we worked with the Chicago Infrastructure Trust, but I would say that our law department, our esteemed law department, did an excellent job of working with the carriers. I would also say that T-Mobile served as the lead carrier. They're a very strong support as well.
Now, this is a $32 million investment, $500,000 for 20 years, and no cost to the agency. And if a partner leaves, another partner can backfill.
That's correct.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, we're pleased with it.
Good
To
job.
say the
Good
least.
job,
Very
Karen.
good
Yeah.
job.
Karen and
Congratulations.
finance team, good job.
Yes.
That's a pretty good deal.
Now, have we ever thought, about putting Wi-Fi?
So this agreement deals only with the commercial radio frequencies, so the cell phone frequencies. It doesn't touch anything with respect to Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi frequencies. So that's still available for development. We or others want to do.
When you see a deal like this, I think the question, at least for me, is how do they make money? I mean, this is a large cash outlay for them over a 20-year period. So how do they make money over that time?
We'd be happy to connect you to carriers to ask them directly. I think when they see one person providing coverage, I think there's always a big push for all of them to provide coverage to sort of mitigate that. But this is sort of a becoming a common structure. The carriers will enter into agreements, all of them together, to provide additional coverage in areas, and they'll fund that coverage. So this is not specifically unique to the CTA, but I would say the CTA deal is a particularly good one for the CTA.
Good. Any other questions?
Well, I had one, but this is probably more for Hema than you. Will it improve voice as well as?
Good morning, everybody. Hema
Good morning.
Sundaram, VP Technology. Yes, Dr. Sen. So it will improve data services, voice, as well as texting. So for example, if someone gets on a conference call, comes downtown, the call won't drop.
That's terrific, actually.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
It's good news. And it will be done by the end of the year?
Substantial completion will be by the end of the year, and the closeout will be April of next year.
What will be at
April of 2016,
Closeout.
the closeout of the project. So
Oh,
we tie
okay.
any loose ends together and then close the project.
So when will I see the end of the year?
Yes,
That's terrific.
thank you.
Great.
Any other,
Great job.
any other questions?
And we don't pay for it either.
Correct. You're already paying for the services in your monthly bill, so now you can use it in the
Yeah, I
subway
know.
tunnel.
The monthly bill is pretty big.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If the motion, may I have leave to place this item on the ordinance for approval?
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you. Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a lease of retail concession space located at 12 South State Street, Chicago, Illinois, and an ordinance authorizing a lease of retail concession located at 4917 North Milwaukee Avenue, Blue Line. Mike? Good morning.
I'm Michael Connolly, your Vice President of Planning. Agenda items 7 and 8 are a pair of ordinances which would authorize 2 leases for concession space, one in the Red Line subway at Jackson Station at 312 South State Street, and the other at Jefferson Park Station on the Blue Line at 17 North Milwaukee. With your leave, I will present both of them together. Both lease agreements are with a company called The Bagler, who will be for a coffee and pastry shop at both locations. The Bagler is a well-established bakery enterprise with a wholesale bakery delivering bagels and croissants, a full-service coffee house located in Lincoln Park. These 2 will be the Bagler's first concession spaces at CTA stations. The first-year rent will be $17,500 for the Jackson Station location and will be $1,000 for the Jefferson Park location. Both are 10-year leases with 2. Both include an annual 3% increase in the rental payment for the life of the contract and the options. Staff are recommending approval of these 2 leases. We believe this will be a good tenant, that the concessions will provide an excellent amenity for our customers and that the leases will generate needed non-fare box revenue. Try to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Questions, Mike? There are no further questions. May I have leave to place this item on approval?
So moved.
Second.
Next order of business is the review of an ordinance declaring a surplus and authorizing the sale of authority property located at 938 West Belmont Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Mike?
Good morning. Michael McLaughlin, Vice President of Planning and Federal Affairs. The CTA seeks to sell the property at 938 West Belmont, which is located of our Belmont station that red and purple lines all meet. This property is at the corner of Belmont and Wilton. It's a 100 by 42-foot lot. We had purchased a 100 by 100 lot back in 2005 to construct the Brown Line capacity expansion project, which, as many of you know, expanded the Brown Line platform from 6 cars to 8-car platforms and build a brand new Belmont station. And this is some residual property that we had held on to for a little while. One reason was that we are building the Red Purple Modernization Project, and we weren't sure if we would need this property. We do not need this property to build that project, and so we are putting it out to, we put it out to bid. We received 9 bids, the largest bid being for $1.52 million, and we seek your approval to move forward with that, finalizing the contract.
Questions?
So Mike, how much, I might have missed it, how much did we originally pay for the land?
$1.66 million for the full 100 by 100 lot.
Okay.
And this is just 100 by 42. We need the rest of the spaces underneath the right-of-way, underneath the Belmont station and tracks.
Okay.
So we did very well, right?
We did pretty well. That included the economic downturn where the real estate market went down too and went back up. So real estate prices are starting to go back up in the area, and it's people want to live and shop close to downtown, close to transit lines. So this is it's just about a 15-minute ride from Belmont to downtown, so this is a desirable location.
Yeah, this is over 600,000 net. A little bit over that, yeah.
I mean, it's a, yeah.
Good job.
It was always a vacant lot, right?
Oh, previously?
Yeah.
I don't know, Joe. When it was, we bought the 100 by 100, I don't think it was a vacant lot. I believe we purchased some properties.
So we did all of that for the price you just mentioned?
So there was a 100 by 100 lot we bought back in 2005. We're selling 100 by 42. He's asking what was on the pre.
Joe Harmoning, General Manager of Real Estate. It was previously improved. Commercial mixed-use property, and the remainder property was held for the platform expansion.
So the amount we paid included everything, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Congratulations on making this deal. It's a good one for us.
If there are no, any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this on the...
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance establishing the authority's disadvantageous business enterprise DBE program goal for federal fiscal years 2016-2018. Carolyn?
Good morning, Chairman, Directors, Mr. President, Madam Council. My name is Mary Person. I'm the Senior Manager of Diversity Programs. I offer for your consideration an ordinance recommending the approval of proposed federal fiscal year 2016 through 2018 Federal Transit Administration Disadvantaged Business, or DBE, triennial goal of 26%. The goal is composed of 18% race-conscious and 8% race-neutral components. The proposed 26 goal is 1% higher than the prior three-year agency goal of 25%. For federal fiscal year 2014, we ranked #1 within our region, which is Region 5. And among the top 50 grantees, we're in the top 10. The DBE program is to be primarily a race-neutral initiative that incorporates race-conscious elements as needed. DOT regulations, which are 49 CFR Part 26.51, require the CTA to meet the maximum feasible portion of the overall agency goal by using race-neutral means of DB participation. CTA will take all steps to meet the agency DBE goal in each of the next 3 years by placing contract-specific DBE goals on contracts only when appropriate, and through race-neutral means, which includes firms to be certified as DBEs and bid on contracts as prime. It is important to note that without establishing a triennial goal, federal funding will not be released to CTA to finance the 2016 through 2018 capital improvement program. Once the proposed goal is approved by the Transit Board, it must then be submitted to the FTA by August 1st for final review and approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
So Mayor, I've got a question. So is there a formula or methodology that determines how high? I know we're 1% above where we were last year, but is there a methodology or something that's used to determine the ceiling or whatever?
No, there's no methodology to determine the ceiling, but there is a methodology to come up with the calculation for the DB goal. It's a two-step that is required by the 49 CFR.
Okay, once you're 26, is there something that could drive it down? Like, could you go back?
We
Could
can
you
go back. So if our spending changes for any reason during the year, we can do a goal.
Okay.
How do we compare with our peers?
So Metra, for example,
Yes.
is attainment for federal fiscal year 2014 was 22%, and we were at 26%. PACE was about 7%, and we're at 26%. So we are #1 within our region, which is Region 5.
And nationally?
Nationally, within the top 50 grantees, we're in the top 10. Based upon New York, DC, and Philly, we're almost #3.
Did you say we are #3?
Between New York, DC, and Philly, yes, sir.
And those are the larger?
Those are the larger agencies that we look at and we usually work with, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? There are no further questions. May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Our final order of business today is the review of 10 purchase and sales award recommendations. Presenter Ellen McCormick.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? We will start with contracts numbers A1 through A5. Any questions, please? Can you give us a little bit more color, okay, in A3?
This is for the property management of 3 of the CTA's facilities, and I'm going to let Jim D'Amico take it from here.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Peterson, President Carter, and distinguished board members. The property management bid is before you today, and the award is recommended to Jones Lang LaSalle, who is a leader in the industry not only in our region but across our country. And we're very excited to hopefully have them as our building management team.
Years have we been with Jones?
You have not been with Jones. This is new.
Or,
Yeah, they're replacing Transwestern.
We have been with
oh,
Transwestern.
I'm sorry, yeah, that's Transwestern,
Right,
sorry.
from at least 2010, and I believe prior to that as well, but I'm not sure how far back it goes.
We've actually had Transwestern since we moved into this building.
Any questions?
For A5, is that amount for 7.3 million, is that a one-time amount for Trapeze Software Group?
Chairman Peterson, board members, yes, that is a one-time amount.
Okay, thank you.
Although we do expect the project, there will be other fees that we expect to incur with this, just not with this company. But there may be training involved or different things, and that's why we put estimated project budget is 10 million. So we believe we'll be coming back to you with related projects, but for Trapeze, we believe that'll be the 7.3.
Thank you.
Any other questions for A1 through A5?
I think I heard that it's going to end up in the long run. Am I correct with A5?
That's correct.
Enough to justify the current cost?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Put that in the book.
Any other questions for A1 through A5?
It's not a question, just some information I'd like to get a little later. Back to A3, just in terms, I'm just looking at the DBE participation. I know they exceeded the numbers. Just one point, and you can just get me the information. We're Cleaning Inc. How many employees actually work from this firm on this contract? I know they're the DBE participants, but I'm always curious whether or not they're self-performing. You know, are they really providing bodies to it? The information later. If they've got the contract for 3 buildings, just how many employees from We Are Cleaning Inc. and also SkyTech Enterprise?
We're happy to do that.
Okay, great, thanks.
So any other questions, A1 through A5? Let's move to C1 and C2. Any questions? Could you give us some color in this C2, please?
Ron Denard, CFO. So C2 is a contract with Informity Network. They're a company that we contracted to review telephone bills, and they look for ways for us to save money, and they take a percentage of our savings. So to date, they have saved roughly $1.6 million of savings. We did a change order. We had an initial contract of roughly $240. Didn't know how much they could save. They ended up saving more, so we had a change order of $300,000. So they have projected another $1.4 million of savings. So we have a change order to increase the amount of the contract, so it would go up to additional $400,000, and we're extending the contract for a year. We're also having the firm to look at all of our data and cellular bills also, but we're going to do that on a fixed fee of roughly $3,650 per month, and the firm is a DBE firm.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, we were very pleased with their work, and again, we're trying to find cost savings when possible.
They just focus, in telephone or?
Yes, their area is primarily telephones.
And you decided to do the cellular and a fixed fee because?
Oh, the cellular, just no particular reason. Cellular bills aren't as complex as landline bills, and so it was on one year left on the contract. So that was the only reason we decided to sit. But after a year, we'll look at the whole program, landlines and cellular again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions in C1, C2?
Good work.
Thank you, Ron. Let's move to F1 and F2. Any questions?
A question about F1. Is this just for one person, or are there multiple people that we do in this training?
Good morning, Sally Santos, Learning and Support Unit. It would be for up to 6 people. Right now, we're planning on 5 people.
Any other questions? Now let's review contract number G1. Any questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this purchase and sales award on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
May I have a second? Since there is no further business to come before this committee, may I have a motion to recommend approval of the omnibus?
So moved.
Second?
Secretary, call the roll, please.
Yes, Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
1 second before we start the next committee.
I want to change the Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to call to order the July 15th, 2015 meeting of the Committee on Human Resources. Would the Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Youngblood,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Chairman Irvine.
Yes.
We have a quorum of the committee with all 4 members present.
Great. Our first order of business today is the approval of the committee minutes of February 5th, 2014. I noticed that there's a date of 15/2014 that should be 2/5/2014.
Okay, so connected, and I'll change the minutes when we do it.
Thank you. The minutes were previously distributed. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood,
Yes.
Director Irvine.
Yes.
That motion is yes votes.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance amending ordinance number 005-201 and restating the authority's current residency requirement. Dr. Omar.
Omar Brown, Human Resources. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Directors, Mr. President, and Madam General Counsel. For your consideration this morning is an ordinance's current residency requirements. The authority's residence ordinance was by the board in 1998. There have been 2 amendments to the ordinance since, somewhat limiting its application. The original ordinance contained a recommendation that the residency requirement be negotiated with CTA union, but that was never accomplished. As a result, the residency requirement only applies to exempt employees, which are approximately 10% of CTA's workforce. Today's amendment has 2 parts. The first part recommended that we remove the requirement that individuals subject to a collective bargaining agreement who are promoted into positions not covered by a collective bargaining agreement move into the residency area. This requirement has limited the authority's ability to promote qualified individuals into non-collective bargain positions who do not want to leave their communities and uproot their families. The second part allows for the flexibility exceptions or further extensions to the residency requirement in cases of demonstrated extreme hardship as agreed by the president and chairman. New hires into non-collectively bargained positions will continue to be months to move into the residency area, with an additional 12 months based on a good cause. The ordinance will allow the president with the chairman to extend the time to comply with the residency requirement beyond the 18 months and up to including a waiver based on extreme hardship of the person so requesting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from committee members? Okay, I just had one quick question. Can you just explain a little more about what is the from the statute?
So the residency area is, it's not a clean slate. It's not just Cook County. It goes as far north as Lake Cook Road, as far west as almost Schaumburg, and then as you get into the south suburbs, it goes up and down. So it's not just, Cook County or a clean break.
It's basically the service area.
Any questions? Okay. Since there are no further questions on this item and there is no further business to come before this committee, may I have a motion to recommend board approval of this item and to place it on the omnibus?
Move it.
Second.
Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Youngblood,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Chairman Irvine.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes.
Thank you.
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
1 minute, please. She's ready. Excuse me, hold on a second. Are you ready, Steve, for a new committee? Yeah, we're ready.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to call to order the July 15th, 2015 meeting of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Service Delivery. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Robinson will not be here today. Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
And Dr. Sen?
Yes.
The motion to approve the minutes are approved with 3 yes votes.
First order of business is the approval of committee meetings of October 15th, 2014. The minutes were previously distributed. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'm sorry, what the motion, I got a little bit confused. The motion was on the quorum of the committee, not on the minutes I approved.
Yes.
So we do have a quorum with 3
Yes,
members
I
of the
know.
committee present. Thank you, Doctor.
So moved.
Is there a second?
The minutes have been moved and approved, and seconded.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. What happened? The minutes were distributed.
You asked for a motion, so I moved
Who
it.
seconded it?
Mr. Laws, seconded?
I can,
So the minutes
Okay.
have been previously distributed, they've been read,
Call the
they've
roll,
been motioned
please.
and seconded, so now I guess I'll take the vote on the minutes.
Yes.
Got the right committee here. Mr. Robinson is still not here. Mr. Peterson on the minutes.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales on the minutes.
yes, although I wasn't in attendance, I reviewed these minutes for their accuracy, and I'd like to vote yes.
So that's a yes, thank you. And Dr. Sen.
Yes.
So the minutes of that committee meeting are now approved with 3 yes votes.
Next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing a 5-year fair payment agreement with my former employer, Northwestern University, for CTA bus route number 201, Central Ridge. Mike, do you want to?
Good morning. I'm Michael Conley, your Vice President of Planning. This item is a staff recommendation to approve a 5-year agreement with Northwestern University. Under the agreement, Northwestern will CTA for the fares for rides taken on the bus route 201 Central Ridge by students, faculty, and other university-designated persons during the academic year. 5-year agreement, and this 5-year agreement represents the first arrangement of this kind for CTA. Northwestern is discontinuing the operation of a privately chartered shuttle connecting their remote parking area near Ryan Field with the central campus. Instead, they will pay for the fares for university riders on the regularly scheduled CTA Route 201 Central Ridge. This CTA route provides two-way transportation along the corridor through campus and past the parking area near the football stadium. The CTA 201 bus route operates from Howard Station all the way to Old Orchard Shopping with service weekdays and Saturdays. Projected university riders can be accommodated with the current service levels on this route, on the Route 2. This partnership with the university will increase CTA ridership as well as reducing the need for Northwestern to operate additional bus shuttles. The results will be additional revenue for CTA as well as a reduction in diesel exhaust emissions in the region, resulting in cleaner air for all of us. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions at this time.
One question, how will it operate? I mean, they'll show a card to the driver, and the driver will somehow count them?
Yes, they will show the card to the driver, and the driver will press a button on the fare box that will be designated for this on this route.
And how frequent is this?
The service runs, the service run, it varies with time of day, but during the peak period, you're operating at about 10 minutes or 12-minute frequency.
And we're not trying to increase, we won't need to increase.
We're not
the
planning
service.
to do any increases to the service level is adequate. We've talked to the university about their ridership pattern, and we believe the service level is adequate and will handle the load.
Even on weekends and so on?
Yes. It doesn't run on Sundays. The 201 is not a Sunday service route, only weekdays and Saturdays, just to clarify.
And they
Do
came
we-
to us, I'm
sorry.
sorry, they
Go
came to us regarding this?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
The University of Chicago.
We do have the University of Chicago, but it is set up very differently. For the University of Chicago routes, the university pays us for operation of the route, net the fare box revenue that comes in. So it's a different type of agreement. This is a regular route that will continue in operation just as we always have been operating it, whereas the University of Chicago routes are set up specifically to provide service in the Hyde Park, Kenwood, and campus area there. And for those that the university has some suggestions for how to operate them, there we set it up so that they pay the full cost of operating the route net that come into the fare box. In this instance, we believe the university ridership will not be, as it is with the University of Chicago routes, the majority of the riders. This will be a minority of the riders. The route will continue to operate with its fare-paying customers just as it has, and the university folks will fill in the empty seats on the existing bus service.
What about the University of Illinois?
I'm sorry?
University of Illinois.
University of Illinois.
And, yeah, we don't have any
anything
arrangement
there?
with them now. This potentially, they might see it as a way and may approach us about it, so.
Questions?
Thank you.
Well, do we have, can I have a motion to recommend board approval of this item and to place it on the omnibus?
So moved. I'll second. Either one, we'll trade.
Call the
Choose-
roll.
make your pick.
Secretary, Mr.
Yes, motion to
Secretary.
approve that item. Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Peterson?
Second.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 3 yes votes.
Finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Give me 1 minute, Terry.
All right.
We had a lot of good news today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Excuse me, is Miss Claire Anderson here? What you look like, but I don't see you. Claire's not here. All right, Terry, we're ready.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
I'd like to call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for July 20, 2015. Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes, I'll try to do a better job this time. Evans won't be here. Mr. Irvine? Mr. Youngblood?
Here.
And
Here.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Chairman Peterson?
Here.
We have a motion. We have a quorum of the board with 6 members present.
Thanks, Greg. The first order of business today is public comment. Greg?
Yes, we have 4 speakers, all of them that contacted me in advance. I'll bring them up 2 at a time. With the order that they have contacted me. Ms. Crutcher, would you like to step right up, please? And also Ms. Schmitz, would you like to step up? And I ask each just to sit right. If that green light is on, the microphone will be able to hear you. And please, I ask each of you to restrict your comments to 3 minutes or less. And with that, I will begin with Ms. Crutcher. Please address the board.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kara Crutcher, and I am here today on behalf of the Courage Campaign CTA. I have lived in Chicago my entire life, and I love this city with a passion. However, I am here to discuss a more serious issue that I believe plagues our city's buses and trains. For the past 12 years, I have been a victim of street harassment on a regular basis, and a great deal of that harassment has occurred on the CTA. One of the most drastic instances occurred when I was 14 years old, 11 years ago, when a man hit me. Street harassment is unwanted comments, gestures, and actions forced on a stranger in a public place without their consent. It includes unwanted leering, offensive and/or sexual comments, following, public masturbation, groping, sexual assault, and rape. I know for a fact that ads addressing sexual harassment exist in New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Iowa City, Los Angeles, Paris, and Vancouver. It is my opinion that it is inexcusable for Chicago to be a major metropolitan area and not have frequent ads and announcements regarding the issue. It is a prevalent issue that affects all of us. In 2009, Young Women's Action Team surveyed a number of people and found that 42% of people feel unsafe on the CTA. 52% report being sexually harassed, 13% report being sexually assaulted, and a whopping 91% do not report any of it. I've read about 4 cases alone in 2015 in which someone has been sexually assaulted on a CTA train. I formed this campaign to raise awareness and purchase ad space and
discouraging harassment and encouraging others to take responsibility for our safety could be conveyed to the commuters of Chicago. Ultimately, I was notified by Titan Worldwide that in order to purchase ad space, you had to be a nonprofit or a government ordinance or government entity according to ordinance number 016-63 Exhibit A. As you can imagine, this was a huge setback for myself and the Courage Campaign team. However, because of my personal experiences and the experiences of those that I care about, I cannot sit back and let this continue as it is. I want to urge the CTA to reconsider and change how they approach this very serious issue. With the CTA claiming a zero-tolerance policy, more must be done to secure those that pay to use this service every day. What message is being sent to the commuters of this city, in particular to the women and the members of the LGBTQ community, if announcements are regularly present on the CTA? How are we supposed to feel when we are violated and people look the other way? This issue transcends race, class, and gender. And when people have to change their routes and avoid the CTA as a precaution, it causes the CTA to lose money. To quote Holly Curl, the founder of Stop Street Harassment, an organization based in Washington, D.C., and a supporter of the Courage Campaign CTA, when it comes to public space, transit agencies are in a unique position to be leaders in addressing harassment. I sincerely hope that we can work with you all to develop measures that, if anything, inform people about the issue, inform them that it is not okay, and show that this great service, the CTA city, does care to put an end to it. Thank you for your time.
Let me just, for a moment, Ms. Crutcher, first, thank you for bringing this issue to our attention. We will absolutely address this issue. Who can we have, Ms. Crutcher, meet with today on your staff to start moving forward on this?
I can have Jim with her directly.
Jim, could you reach your hand in the back? So this is Jim in the back.
Hello, Jim.
Meet with him, and we will get the ball rolling on this. And thank you for bringing this issue to the board's attention.
Thank you, Ms. Crutcher. Our next speaker is Ms. Schmitz.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Schmitz. I work at Alternatives, a youth and family organization in Uptown. Could I quickly just ask the Girl World girls to stand up? You guys can sit down then. So, we are Girl World, a youth development and youth employment program. This summer, in collaboration with the Courage Campaign, we are speaking out against street harassment. Today, we would like to share with you some of the experiences of Girl World participants, all of whom are between the ages of 17. The accounts you're about to hear are just a handful of the numerous experiences these face. Last year, when I was 16, I was with my 14-year-old brother when this man at the bus stop wouldn't stop staring at me. When I got on the bus, he forced himself next to me, pulled out his phone, and showed me a picture of myself. I was too shocked to say anything. He stared at me until he left the bus. I'm 14, and when me and some of my friends were on the train, this man entered, yelled, "Sit the fuck down," and was asking us where our daddies were at. A lady near us asked us if we knew him, but no one said anything. My sister and I were on the bus, and as we were walking towards the back, this man told me I was pretty. I said thanks and was on my way. The man continued to talk at us and said we should get off the bus to make love to him. He grabbed my sister, so we tried to fight him off. We ended up getting kicked off the bus and had to walk the rest of the way. Last year, when I was 15, this man kept asking me for my name, my address, my phone number, and what school I went to. When I said no, he told me he would slap me upside the face and stick a stone up my ass. I was on the blue line. This man asking me for money stuck his crotch in my face when I said no. I was on the red line with my sister. This guy around 17 years old sat next to her, put his arm around her, and wouldn't leave her alone. When we got off the train and he continued to follow us, I wanted to say something, but I was too scared. I was on the Western Blue Line platform when this man started hollering at me. I tried ignoring him, but he came over and touched my leg. I was on the green line when this white man kept recording me no matter how many times I moved. One of our campaign members has witnessed the same man masturbate on the L day after day. This same man has a prior record, and CTA has multiple recordings of him throughout the city. When the same man who has been engaging in public indecency on the CTA system for almost 20 years, so regularly and with almost no consequences, it becomes apparent that the lack of a clear and public policy sends a message to predators that they can test the limits and apparently do so with impunity. that the CTA is a viable place for them to operate. In the words of the judge overseeing this current case, the man that I mentioned earlier, in this day and age, women are productive members of society. They have a right to participate in public life, go to their jobs without these predators hiding around the corner, without this intimidation. I would like to add, furthermore, that our young people deserve to travel throughout their city without fearing for their safety and their emotional well-being. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schmitz. I would ask both Ms. Crutcher and Ms. Schmitz to please step aside so the two other speakers could step up. Oh, no, I'm sorry, over there to speak, over at the chair. Take that, sure, I'm sorry. Yeah, sit right down. And again, I ask both to please limit each comment to 3 minutes, and I'll start with, is it Ms. Kolb-Flude?
Flude, yes.
Flude.
Karen
Okay.
Cobb-Flude.
Karen Kolb-Flude, you'll be the next speaker.
That's
please.
correct. Thank you. And thank you to the board for having us come today and listening to the voices of our residents. My name is Karen Cobb-Flude. I'm a gerontologist, and that means the world of aging is my purview. But I'm here today to speak to you as a resident that has been significantly impacted by the number 11 bus closure, and a representative of the Crosstown Bus Coalition, which is requesting reimplementation and reinstitution of the number 31 and number 11 bus. I also am here to speak to you as the board president of Forward Chicago, which is a nonprofit grassroots organization that helps people to remain active and influential in our communities as they age. Our focus is on supporting people to remain in their communities as they grow older. These bus lines both provide crucial links to our community members to navigate the neighborhoods and to remain active and engaged in the communities that they help to build and make the important, vital outlets that they are today. As an all-volunteer grassroots organization that works to support residents to age in our neighborhoods, we've heard story after story from older residents who have been negatively impacted by both of these bus lines, however, specifically by the number 11 bus line and this portion of the closure of the route. Transportation is consistently ranked as one of the most important indicators of independence for people as they grow older. We know from the Bueller Center on Aging, Age-Friendly Chicago reports that come out that in our community, 46% of older adults are living alone, 70% are in their own residence, and 30% report feeling isolated in the past year, which is a tremendous indicator of negative physical, mental health outcomes. Our members report not being able to get to vital community outlets in their lives: the library, the grocery store, the pharmacy, Wells Park Fitness Center, and other public parks that our city wants to keep active for all ages, senior centers, places of worship, and much more. These community places enhance the quality of life of our residents and are not served in our community by the route, the suggested alternative. Our members further explain that due to a gap in service, they've been unable to visit family and lifelong friends, doctors, restaurants, and small businesses that have played a role in the day-to-day lives for decades. They also report not being able to visit some of the vibrant small businesses that have opened and thus closed along this corridor because of a lack of transportation and public ability to get to
You need
these
to
outlets.
wrap up, Ms. Flude.
Thank you. These losses lead to increased isolation. Chicago is an age-friendly community designated by the World Health Organization. Closure of this route is in direct conflict with our city's desire to maintain age-friendly, livable communities. The same things that are good for me as a pregnant mother are good for older adults and supporting them to age in our communities as they grow older. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flude. And our final speaker, Ms. Wang.
Would everyone here who is here representing the 31st 11 Crosstown Bus Alliance please stand up? Good morning. My name is Carmen Yang, and I grew up in Chicago's Chinatown. I've been a youth leader with the Coalition for a Better Chinese Community since I was in middle school, and I support the reinstatement of the 31st Street bus. During the last census period, the Chinese American community was the fastest growing one in the state. A lot of this growth can be seen in Chinatown and Bridgeport neighborhoods. The 31st Street bus would be an important means of connecting the community members in Bridgeport to jobs and shopping in Chinatown and vice versa. There are many significant resources in Bridgeport, such as food and clothing pantries, recreational activities, and houses of worship that could be more easily accessed by the residents of Chinatown if they could simply board the 31st Street bus. Safety is a huge concern for the community members in Chinatown. Having another public transportation resource, like a bus line along the 31st Street, would shorten walking distances and encourage more residents to travel between these different neighborhoods and take advantage of these resources that should be more accessible to the public. One example is easy access to 31st Street and various parks, swimming pools, and libraries along. There have been several instances this summer when I could have used the 31st Street bus to access many of these resources. Also, my community is home to a disproportionate percentage of senior citizens. There's a set of senior buildings on 31st and Wentworth, and one on 29th and Halsted. And these residents often need public transportation to help them get to doctor appointments, hospitals, and visit friends. My grandpa, for example, lives in one of these buildings, and I know that he would have more transportation options than the 31st Street bus. I often worry about him walking everywhere when the weather gets cold and he could slip on ice. Finally, the proposed terminal at the museum campus would make valuable educational resources, such as the Field Museum and the Shed Aquarium, much more accessible to young people in these two communities. This summer, I'm home from college, and I would have taken the 31st Street bus to the beach or one of these museums if the bus route was in operation. Thank you for your consideration. I hope you will approve the reinstatement of the 31st Street bus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wang. I want to thank all four speakers for your remarks. And that concludes today's public comment section of the board meeting. Chairman Peterson.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business today is the approval of the June 10th, 2015 board previously distributed. I would now like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 10th, 2015.
Move it.
I need a second.
I'm sorry, was there a second?
Move it.
Second.
Second, okay. Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
Approved. The June minutes is approved with 6 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business today is executive session. It is my understanding, Karen, that there will be an executive session.
Have a short executive session pursuant to Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act.
Thanks, Karen. With that, I now entertain recess into executive session based upon the reasons
So moved.
Second.
Second.
The second by Ms. Rosales. Okay. Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Ms. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
The motion to session is approved with 6 yes votes.
Chairman.
I would now entertain a motion to return to the board. Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes. It was moved. Fine.
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood. Dr. Sen. Ms. Alva Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
And Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved with 6 yes votes, so we're back in open session.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is an matter. Board item number 4A was discussed in executive session. I now entertain a motion to approve an ordinance on acquisition of real property located at 3252 North Wilton Avenue, Unit 4D, Chicago, Illinois, for the Red Purple Line Modernization Project. So I need a motion.
So move.
Second?
And seconded. Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
And motion to approve board item number 4A.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is agenda item number 4A. As many of you know, this is the 5th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act. Before we review to read the resolution.
Yes. Yes. The resolution recognizing the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act and acknowledging Chicago Transit Authority's accessibility initiatives. Whereas the American with Disabilities Act, ADA, on July 26, 1990, and whereas the ADA is a landmark piece of legislation ensuring the civil rights of people with disabilities, and whereas the ADA prohibits discrimination based upon disability and requires equal access and opportunities for people with disabilities to public accommodations and transportation. In the past 25 years, the Chicago Transit Authority has made great strides in responding to the transit needs of people with disabilities. And whereas the authority has achieved accessibility for people with disabilities on its entire bus fleet and on all rail cars, and whereas the authority completed the Red Line South reconstruction project in 2013, making accessible all stations on the Red Line South, and completed a project making the Clark Division Red Line Station accessible in 2014. And whereas the authority has in recent years opened new accessible rail stations, including the Cermak McCormick Place Green Line, and Pink and Green Line, and the Oakton Skokie Yellow Line stations. And whereas the authority has a project under construction to make accessible the Wilson Red Line Station, and plans underway to make other stations accessible, including the Addison, Illinois Medical District, and UIC Halstead Blue Line stations, and the Washington Wabash and Quincy Loop L stations. And whereas the authority is planning the Red and Purple Modernization Project and the Forest reconstruction, which would increase accessibility on those lines. And whereas the authority, through its accessible bus and rail systems, is instrumental in helping people with disabilities get to work, school, and play, and to participate fully in all that metropolitan Chicago offers its residents and visitors. And whereas the authority has relied in the past upon the valuable input of the disability community and disability advocates in its accessibility initiatives. And whereas in 1993, the authority established an ADA advisory committee whose members either have disabilities or represent organizations with disabilities to provide ongoing participation of individuals with disabilities in the development and assessment of the authority's services. And whereas in recognition of the 20th anniversary of the ADA, the authority created the Infrastructure Accessibility Task Force, which assisted the authority with a strategic plan to prioritize and increase rail accessibility for people with disabilities. And whereas the authority has worked with the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities to coordinate efforts to provide transportation that is accessible to individuals with disabilities. And whereas the Transit Board recognizes the desire and efforts of authority staff to continue to enhance the accessibility of existing bus and rail facilities and equipment to expand accessibility to the greatest extent possible throughout the authority's rail system through major renovations and new construction. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Chicago Transit Board of the Chicago Transit affirms the authority and implement accessibility initiatives consistent with the spirit as well as the letter of the American with Disabilities Act. Be it further resolved that the Transit Board recognizes the significance of the Americans with Disabilities Act and helping the authority accomplish its mission of delivering for all persons quality, affordable transit services that link people, jobs, and communities. Be it further resolved that the authority will continue to seek the participation and expertise of the ADA Advisory Committee, the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, and others in the disability community in planning its accessibility initiatives.
Thank you, Greg. Before I ask for a motion to approve, would anyone like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you for reading that long resolution, Greg. I've lived my whole life with disabilities. I was born with hemophilia. I've lived with and hepatitis C for over 30 years. And I've been an advocate for equal access to transportation for most of my adult career. But this last year, I've had some orthopedic problems, and I've been using crutches, and I've gained a whole new level of appreciation for the features of the CTA that make it accessible, and have heavily relied on the elevators working at the stations, the buses that lower so I can step on more easily, the ramps that fold out when I can't step on the bus, the availability of priority seating and the assistance from bus operators in assisting me in getting priority seating when I need it. And it's been heartening just to see everything working in most cases, with few exceptions, as it should. It's helped me to kind of reinforce my commitment to making the system as fully accessible as it can be, making the rest of those stations accessible, getting those elevators in there, doing everything we have to do to make sure that in the future the system is accessible to everyone. But the reality is, I had to stop driving months ago, and if it wasn't for the CTA, I would be stuck at home quite a bit, and I really depend on the CTA and the accessibility features, and so it's been great to have it there. So this 25th anniversary of the ADA means a lot to me for many reasons, but is extra personal for me for many of these reasons. So I appreciate this resolution. I appreciate the commitment of both the Chairman, President Dorval Carter, and our ADA Compliance Officer, Amy Serpy, and the ADA Advisory Committee, and everyone that has worked to make the CTA more accessible and will work in the future to make it even more accessible. So thank you to all of you, and I'm looking forward to coming back in another 25 years and talking about how we accomplished everything that we had to accomplish. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Any other comments? President Carter.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. It's very important to me too. I'm getting to be the age where the kneeling bus helps. So the disability, not formally mobility limited, but it helps. I don't think I could get buses easily because of my age. But I have a disability, also mobility limited, but my right side doesn't function properly. And being born in India and growing up there, the fact that it was ignored essentially was a matter of great pain to me. So I can understand the pain of those who are for mobility reasons. And so I'm very happy to vote for and support this motion.
Great. Thank you, Director Sen. President Carter.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to thank the board for moving forward with this resolution. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending upon how you look at it, I have been at CTA during the 25 years that we have made these strides to improve accessibility, and was a big part of the effort to do that over the course of my career. And so I view both the time it has taken us and the distance that we have come as a personal success, but also I view the need to complete the accessibility of this system as a personal goal of mine here at CTA. And to that regard, the resolution mentions a strategic plan that CTA had prepared some time ago that was working towards how for CTA to get to 100% accessibility in our entire system. I've asked staff to work to start to update that plan and to give and report back to the board at some upcoming board meeting strategic plan that lays out sort of our vision of what it's going to take and how we plan to get to the point where we will all be able to indicate that we have a 100% accessible system, which I think is important not only to the disability community, but it's important to a city of the stature of Chicago. And I personally want to be a part of leading that effort as we go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, President Carter. And I just sentiment and thank Director Irvine and Director Sin and also President Carter. I'm fortunate that I get to see Marco Bristol on the Rush board. And, you know, I get a chance to talk with her, and as a matter of fact, coming up, talking about how to get the African American community more involved in this celebration. But, you know, I applaud your commitment to work on making us 100% accessible, because I think, you know, when we start projects, accessibility should be the first item. You know, more than anything else for me, that should be the we look at when we're doing a project. How do we make sure that accessibility is at the top of the things that we want to accomplish? So again, I want to applaud the President for working on this and all of the work. I know when we were doing the Red Line South, talking with Chris, and the fact that by doing the project in 5 months versus stretching it out, we were able to save $75 million and make 3 of the stations accessible, and hopefully going forward we can continue to do that. So again, I thank everybody for working on this, and thank the authorities' commitment to making sure that one day we can all say that we're 100% accessible. So with that said, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the resolution recognizing the 25th anniversary of the American with Disability Act and acknowledging the Chicago's Transit Authority accessibility initiatives.
Move it.
Second.
Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
The motion to approve the resolution passes with 6 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Sib.
The Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget met earlier this morning. The committee reviewed the finance, approved the June committee minutes. The committee also reviewed and recommended for board approval the following: an ordinance authorizing the execution of one or more supplemental indentures, an issuance of capital grant receipts revenue refunding bonds, Series 2015 under Section 5307, Urbanized Area Formula Funds, and Section 5337, State of Good Repair Formula Funds, and substitution of debt reserve policies in the debt reserve accounts of the 2010 sales tax bonds and the 2006 Public Building Commission bonds. An ordinance authorizing a co-promotional advertising trade agreement with Bank of America for the 2015 Bank of America Chicago. An ordinance authorizing a funding and license agreement with T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint for subway cellular upgrade. 2 ordinances authorizing leases of retail concession space at the following Chicago location: 312 South State Street, Red Line, 3917 North Milwaukee Avenue, Blue Line. An ordinance declaring a surplus and authorizing the sale of authority property located at 938 West Belmont, Chicago, Illinois. An ordinance establishing the authority business enterprise DBE program goal for federal fiscal years 2016 through 2018, and 10 purchase and sales award recommendations. The committee recommended approval of all of these items and place them on the omnibus for board approval. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Director Silva. The next order of business is a report from the Committee on Human Resource. Director Irvine.
Thank you, Chairman Peterson. The Committee on Human Resources met earlier this morning. The committee approved the February 5th, 2014 committee minutes. The committee also reviewed the ordinance amending ordinance number 005-201 and restating the authority's current residency requirement. The committee approved the ordinance, recommended board approval, and placed the omnibus for approval. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Director. Next order of business is a report from the Committee on Strategic Planning and Service Delivery. Director Sin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Strategic Planning met this morning, and it approved the October 15, 2014 committee meetings. The committee also approved an authorizing a 5-year fare payment agreement with Northwestern University for CTA bus route number 201, which goes to Central Ridge. The committee recommends board approval of the ordinance and placed it on the omnibus for board approval.
Thanks, Director Sin. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director Silva, Director Irvine, and Director Sin?
So moved.
I'll second.
Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus is approved with 6 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is a construction report. Chris?
As I bring my report up, I'd like to just take a second in light of the ADA ordinance to reaffirm the commitment of infrastructure to the construction of accessible facilities and accessible elements system-wide. And in particular, call attention to one of my staff members who's been really the conscious of this effort in my area. Leah Mooney has been instrumental, or was instrumental, in bringing forward the Illinois Accessibility Task Force in working with the board as well as the front office to get that document publicized, and then most importantly to turn it into a working document where we continue to go back to it and refer to it in the projects and programs that we bring in front of both the President's office as well as this board. It was in many ways her good work that when we realized these significant savings by efficiently pursuing the reconstruction of the Dan Ryan, the Red Line track, it was in many ways her encouragement that brought those projects forward at 87th, 63rd, and 50th in Garfield. So I want to take an opportunity in light of that ordinance to A, recognize its importance in my area, and B, to thank one of my key staff members, Leah Mooney, and being the consciousness of that in my area. So with that, I'll be presenting 4 projects today. Kimball-Princeton State Substations, part of our ongoing investment in key back-of-house substation infrastructure, 95th Terminal Improvement Project, the Wilson Transfer Station, the Ravenswood Loop Connector Track reconstruction. In regard to Kimball-Princeton and State, these projects, we're wrapping up a lot of the exterior renovations. As you know, these are existing substations, and we're putting new equipment and expanding their capacity. These are in key areas of service. So we have obsolete equipment that we're replacing, but we're also adding capacity. In many cases, we're wrapping up the exterior renovations of these facilities, so keeping them dry so that this equipment stays in good shape. And we're moving on to the installation and testing of new pieces of equipment, particularly at Kimball and Princeton. The project is on budget, and as I noted, we're starting to commission and install many of these pieces of equipment, which will be vital for service moving forward in the many areas that we're covering here. We have Kimball and Princeton on the red, State on the red. Installation of miscellaneous exterior elements. This is a new courtyard around the transformers at the Kimball substation. The substation is kind of right in the middle of the yard there at Kimball, creating some logistics challenges. And there is a transformer inside that same wall, a new transformer. That transformer takes AC voltage and steps it down, and then we have a rectifier behind it. You'll notice language in there where we call it a lineup, and a lineup in this particular context means a transformer rectifier pair. 95th Terminal Improvement Project, you're seeing again the continuation of the construction of the South Terminal foundations, the miscellaneous aspects of that we can see in some of the photographs. The construction of the wall on the west side, the construction of miscellaneous pits that enable us to and structures that enable us to bring They're vital links between the north and the south facility. So work continues here while the larger project, as I've talked about before, is rebid. These are one of the pits that I was talking about. These pits and the boring. The bridge is to my back here in the photograph, but it enables us ultimately to run vital communication and power links between the various facilities. This is predominantly the work of AP2 Advanced Package 2 that's underway with Walsh Construction. Again, foundation wrapping up in this particular quadrant. The Wilson Transfer Station, similar to the Wilson Station, we're in the ground here. We're doing demolition. If anyone has been in that area, I know Director Sin, you spent time up there. With the demolition now of the old freight concrete, we're really starting to see how Broadway in particular is really opening up and how this project will really transform this particular part of Uptown. So with the removal of that freight structure, you've got a lot more light on the street. We have building owners and others who comment that this is the first time they've had light coming into their buildings. And so that kind of work where we're cleaning up our footprint in the area and providing modern services in many ways what this entire project is about. So we have been completing the demolition as well as drilling caissons. So we are one of the experts in drilling caissons, I would say, in the city. We do a lot of them because of the nature of the elevated structure and trying to provide an extremely robust, deep foundation for it. Miscellaneous details here, and then these are the construction. So these are the caps on top of the caissons. The caissons themselves are round and drilled, but these are the caps upon which we're going to set the future structure. This project is complicated a little bit by the it's required. In many cases, we build half the structure and then we shore it. We actually then put the various elements in the track up there and run it on that shoring. So it's the level of temporary construction we need to put in place and the care with which we do it is to our method of constructing, in particular for transit, and is one of the issues where you see, high investments in some of these stations, and it's one of the reasons to build something like this is complicated enough, to build it while we're providing service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and to phase it in such a way that it minimizes the impacts to our customers is part of the trick of what we do in infrastructure. Again, these are caisson elements before the caps are poured. The drilling of the caisson, the setting of the steel inside the caisson, that element goes deep down into the hole, which ultimately becomes the foundation on the right. Ravenswood Loop is a track project, a vital track project in the area. We've had a lot of growth on the Brown Line since our expansion project. This project sort of builds on that growth and takes care of a key piece of track between Armitage and the Merchandise Mart. We are halfway through the project. We've taken a little break here for all the summer festivals. This really is this time right now in end of June through mid-July is sort of the infrastructure summer break, if you will, because of all the festivals. So we come back in this weekend and start again and end in the fall of this year. This project is on budget and on schedule. I'll show some photographs of the track work in the station at Sedgwick. We'll pick up just to the south of this area coming up in subsequent weekends. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
What was that wall-like thing that you showed us on the 95th Street station?
It's a wall-like thing. It's one of the it's one of the foundation walls for the new south terminal. So what fundamentally the expansion of service at 95th, the expansion of the facility to provide for the very intense service that we have down there. We're basically building a bridge on the south side of 95th Street Bridge, and then we're putting a building on top of it and a platform underneath it. So those walls are part and parcel of that bridge, and then of course there's a building goes on top of it. Yeah. But they are exactly that. You hit the nail on the head.
So Chris, got a question. How much of I know most of the projects you update us on are projects that have been bidded out. Mm-hmm. How much, do we do any work internally, a workforce? What percentage of our projects are done by internal workforce?
I would say about probably 10 to 15 cases. They're smaller projects. So our internal workforce, which has huge institutional knowledge, in some ways works on the smallest and trickiest elements. Okay. But they do tend to be small work. They tend to work under slightly different conditions than the contractor. The contractor while coming in and having huge mobilization, tends to work under line cuts or reroutes where our own personnel work under different conditions that in some cases may be more difficult for a contractor, and their institutional knowledge is integral to that. In other cases, they actually support the project. So in many cases, when we have to come in and do a line cut, say in the Ravenswood Loop Connector, a reroute rather, on that particular project, because the trains are going into the subway, right, not stopping and cutting entirely, the in-house forces come in and set that up. They turn off the signal system, they turn off the traction power, and their knowledge of those systems are integral to the contractor working safely. So, I mean, it's a little hard to say, but I would say it's roughly 10 or 15%, and then they have an integral role in the actual construction itself.
Okay, great, thanks. Thanks, Chris.
An example, Chairman, would be some of the work in-house crews are doing, say, on the Congress branch right now, the Forest Park branch of the Blue Line, working on the overnight, if you've seen them out there.
Okay, any other questions for Chris? Thanks, Chris. Greg, is there any new business to come before the board?
I'm sorry, Kevin wants to say something?
Okay.
Sure. I wanted to encourage all of you to come to the Disability Pride Parade this Saturday. I've gone every year for, this is its 12th year, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go this year, but then I heard we have the CTA minibus in the parade, so I'm planning to ride the minibus. So everyone at CTA got an email about it. It's a lot of fun, just really celebrating the diversity of the community of people with disabilities, and just fun time. There's people all ages, all kinds of disabilities, and so I hope to see you all out there on Saturday.
Okay. All right, thanks. Greg, any new business to come before the board?
For the day, Terry.
All right. Since there's no new business to come before the board, I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.